Hey, Facebook, happy Friday to you. I know it's not normal or usual or the typical, the norm or whatever for me to come on and do a Friday video. But I felt the need to do so because I was going to do a post on this, but I can convey a lot better. I don't know why my shirt's like this. Hey there. I can convey a lot better when I speak it. So today I was going through my phone, and I'm usually not on Facebook during the day, but I was sitting somewhere. I don't know what I was doing, but I went to my on this day, when it shares the memory. And so the first memory that popped up in my on this day for this day, this time last year was this time last year I was in Connecticut visiting my mom who had been put in the hospital. She had dementia and, she had a whole lot of other things going on with her. And so the memory had actually come to me day before yesterday because there's an event coming up at work this weekend and I wasn't able to attend last year because I was out of town. So when I went on Facebook this morning and I saw the memory and it said, I'm here in Connecticut visiting my mom who's in the hospital. And I made the comment, I said, although she doesn't know who I am, I'm not bothered by that anymore. But I'll never forget who she is. And so because I think I had done a video, I think after she passed, where I said that it really saddened me that when I called her on Mother's Day, that she didn't know who I was. So I think, that was really, really hurtful. And, after I got off the phone with her last Mother's Day, I was like, wow, I said, she doesn't even remember who I am. I said, but that's a part of the illness. And so you just kind of have to, pick up and kind of move on. And, not that I'm being very callous or uncaring about, sadness or, losing loved ones. And, when I say pick up the pieces and move on, I'm not saying that, you forget that person. But, my mom raised us to be strong, independent individuals. Not saying that we don't need anybody, but she raised us to be strong, independent individuals, which is to say that she helped us to understand at an early age that, death is a part of life, so to speak. You know that someone is going to pass away. You know that you could lose a loved one. And you have to be prepared and find a way within life as to how you deal with losses. Every loss has its level of grief. But, I don't believe that God ever intended for us to stay there. Sadness is an emotion. And it's an emotion that, he allows us to feel. He gives us the choice to feel. And so when I went home last June, it was really sad to watch my mom, lay in the bed and come in and out of memory and, everything that she was dealing with. And when I looked at that post this morning, which reminded me of where I was last year, I got sad. I mean, I felt this overwhelming sadness come over me. But then at the same time, I reached within the depths of myself and I said, you know what? I'm really sad about the moment that I felt last year and then having to lose her, 5 months later, I think it was. I have to pick up and say, you know what? Hey, but I had, 50 good years with her. Well, 51, no 50 because I hadn't turned 51 yet. I'm gonna have 50 good years with her. And, I have to reflect on the good times. You're welcome. I have to reflect on the good times. I have to reflect on the time that God, gave her to me or gave me to her because I was adopted and she and my dad are my adoptive parents. And so, I was chosen to be their daughter and God chose them to be my parents. And so, yes, I'm sad. It really saddened me, that my mom got sick. And, when I come on and I talk about health, I've said it plenty of times that, my mom could have lived longer, if she had taken better care of herself. And that means like with eating and exercise, just the simple things that our doctors try to get us to do. And, when you're, at whatever age dementia, may hit you, it's too late almost to kind of go back, but you can kind of you can lengthen your life, so to speak, because there are things that you can do to reverse dementia. I'm learning. So, you just kind of have to, you look at things in life, because I know that we all experience loss, and we experience loss in different ways. And, my thing is, don't dwell there, because when you dwell in a place of sadness, it brings on depression. So when you're dwelling there, you're basically, I'm going to speak for myself. If I was to dwell, on my mom passing and her not being here, that's very selfish of me, because I'm dealing with the loss of a child who's alive, still a devastating loss. Oh, absolutely. Loss is loss. I mean, the person can be here, the person can be gone. And the reason why you're experiencing that feeling of loss and sadness, because your mind goes to a place of saying what could be, or what should be, or what I anticipate, or how I feel that things should be. It really all reverts to what we want. And a lot of times, we want people to live forever, especially when people are sick. And, I was very fortunate that when my mom became ill, when it happened last March, I think it was, or the year before, I started getting things in place, getting power of attorney done, and, all those other things. And when I visited her, I think it was in February of last year, I called my siblings, my nieces and nephews. We all live in different places. And I said, hey, look, you know what? Your mother, your grandmother, she may not see the rest of 2017. So I'm advising everyone, to go. Hey, Anissa, I'm advising everyone to go and visit her, because she's not going to be here that long. Well, some people thought that I was just being very callous, and, I didn't have any faith and things of that nature. And it has nothing to do with faith. A lot of times it has a lot to do with acceptance. Faith can also be considered acceptance. I accept that this is what it's supposed to be. Because if faith is a substance of things that aren't seen, but you hope for, I didn't hope for my mother's death, but I did foresee that it was happening. And I'm hoping that I can be okay with it. I'm hoping that, our family can kind of come together. There's a lot that you could do with that. And so I was fortunate that, we had, that additional time. But, I could have said, well, God, I want her to stay here. And I could have kept putting feeding tubes in her for her to eat. She just got to the point where she was tired of eating. I put the tube in the first time. I knew she didn't want it. I could look at her and tell that she didn't want it. But she allowed me to do it, because I think even in her not having a good memory, she knew that my intention was for her to be able to see her grandchildren, and for her grandchildren to come and see her, because they love their grandmother dearly. I think my children love their grandmother more than they love me. I think all the grandkids did. They just loved their grandmother. And I think she understood that that's why I was doing it. And I had a couple of people that didn't agree with it. But I went ahead and I did it. And she had it for a little while. She pulled it out. And then I had them put it back in. And then she pulled it out a second time. And at that point, I knew that she was tired. I knew that she did not want that. It was something she was living with. So why would I continue to have her to deal with something that she didn't want to? Because of my selfishness. Because this is what I want. I want you to be here. But if there's no quality of life in that, then, be a big person and love the person enough that you're able to let them go. Do we want to let go? No. But what's in the best interest of that person? And when God has an expiration date, on our life, we all have a date of birth and a date of death. He knows both. We just have to enjoy the people in our lives while they're here. And like Merlin just said, she's dealing with the loss of a child who's alive. It's still that's a devastating loss when you know that someone is present, and whether it's happened because a child has gone astray and they're not in contact, or if it's a situation where there's been some discourse and words have been spoken, and everybody's just like, to heck with it. I'm out of here. You're dead to me, that kind of thing. And, that's really tough. But if I could offer something encouraging, for you, Merlin, or for anyone else that may watch this live, is trust the process. Trust the process, because when we let go, And even when it's our children, when we let go and we say, you know what, God, I can't do anything with this. I can't do anything about how this person is. Only you can turn their heart, and God will find a way. Now, he don't have to find a way, but God will do something. But that person has to be open to change. And so the only thing that I would say to something like that, if you're dealing with, if you have someone in your life who you're saying, you know, or they're saying that you're dead to them, or you're saying that they're dead to you, or the relationship is just that strained that it's almost like the person is dead, you know, ask God to deal with you. Work on you. You know, what do I need to do to be a better person? What do I need to do to be open should that person come back to me? Because if people use harsh words, you know, sometimes we're like, you know what, I have nothing to say to that person. They better not come and ask me for anything, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So you're closed to the possibility of God moving them back into your life, because he'll turn their heart. He'll deal with them. But we're so busy trying to deal with everybody else and make them what we want them to be, that we don't ever take time, you know, to make room for in our own hearts for change. And so you're welcome. So, you know, just say, you know what? Hey, what do I need to do to be a better person? Because when offense comes in, we think that it's the other person and we got offended. And now it's up to them to make it right. Well, no, why did I get offended? Because, you know, I heard it said, you know, I don't offend you. You take offense. Because when someone takes offense, that's because you're expecting that person to respond in a certain way, or to say something a certain way that's pleasing to you. So that's why you offended, because it didn't come off the way that you wanted it to come off. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, I ain't telling you nothing that I ain't had to process through my own daggone self. And a lot of times, if I even say, you know what, I'm really offended by that, I have to ask, well, why am I offended? Am I offended because it didn't make me feel good? Am I offended because I'm expecting them to say or do something a certain way that feels good to me? I can't control another person. So I'm learning very quickly. You got to learn to detach yourself from the outcome. You detach yourself from the outcome. That way you're not playing all of these things in your head about how something should be and how it should look. You just like, you know what? That's what it is. And I'll just go with that. So, you know, I deal with sadness because I see a lot of it on my timeline, you know, where people hold on to sadness, or they hold on to grief, or they hold on to offenses, or they hold on, like you're holding on. And so if you're holding on to something that is not present anymore, or if you're holding on to an emotion that is not good for you, that breaks down your body. Sadness is stress, because sadness brings on depression. You know, sadness can take you to a really deep place that you may have trouble getting yourself out of. And so while you have the wherewithal and you're in your right mind, find a way to get yourself out of that hole, because you'll get so deep that you can't get out. And if you're depressed, and if you're in a state of depression, you know, what good are you to yourself and to the people that's around you? So, you know, when I looked at that today, I was like, you know what? I am sad about that, but I am more grateful. There's more gratitude welling up in me than it is sadness. My mother always said, I don't want you sitting around weeping over me. And that's the same thing I've told my kids. Let me tell y'all something. Whatever the day is that I'm supposed to die, I want y'all to celebrate all the funny stuff that I've ever said. I want you to go back and find all my crazy Facebook posts and share those. I want you to, because listen here. If I'm not cremated and they wheel me out in that casket, you know what my song is going to be? It's not I'll Fly Away. It is Frank Sinatra, New York, New York. Because that's my karaoke song. And that's my thing. And so my celebration is truly going to be a celebration. Like, there's no, don't sit and cry for me. Because if you sad, that means, yeah, you'll miss me. Yeah. Give me a few tears. Make me feel good. But you know how you celebrate me? By telling, you know, some of the great things I've said, some of the great things I've done, how I've made you laugh, how I made you think, how I said something you probably would never, ever say, but I said what you were thinking, you know, stuff like that. That's how you celebrate a person's life. Because when you share how my life and my purpose the dash between 1966 and whatever day that I die, that dash represents how I've impacted other people's lives. That's what that means. So the dash, that's what my going home or my celebration of life is going to be, the dash. So yeah, we're sad because we're going to miss the person. I'm not saying that you shouldn't miss the person that you would want to have in your life, but I know for a fact that that person would not want you wrecking your life because you're stuck, because that's what it is. You're stuck in what was and what you would desire to be. And you can't move forward if you're in that place. And so, I'm hoping that, whatever I've said, and you're right, Merlin, detach yourself from the outcome. I learned that from a friend of mine, a Facebook friend of mine, and she had to get me through some stuff. And she said, if you detach yourself from the outcome, it's really freeing. It's really, really freeing. I try it. Try it. So, I felt that sadness, and my mom, I feel the presence of her, both my parents, with me all the time. And when you feel that presence, be thankful for the angels and the guides that are surrounding you and they're encamped about you, because, they could do so much more for you in the spirit realm than they can ever do for you, in this flesh and in this body. You just, we always say, you send your angels forth. Well, send them forth, charge them to go forth and work and minister and do things on your behalf. But please, people, oh God, if I could just get something through, just stop dwelling in sadness. Stop dwelling. You're welcome. Stop dwelling in bad news. Stop dwelling in the woe is me. Stop dwelling there. Like, why are you taking up residency and receiving mail and checks and all kinds of stuff you receiving in a bad place? Like, nothing good can come of a bad place except that you find yourself and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and keep on trucking. The best thing that you could do for the people in your life that has gone on is to create a legacy with your life. Create a legacy with your life. Like, what are you doing to continue to be relevant? Continue to be relevant. When you think of Steve Jobs or Jobs, can't remember how you pronounce his name. He will always be remembered for Apple. 100 years from now, who knows what they'll be using or what'll happen. He is in the history books as transforming technology with Apple. Think about Barack Obama. That's a legacy that was created. That's a legacy that's created. And so, what are you doing that someone, even today, think about this. Anytime I go into a Hilton or a Marriott hotel, or you see Paris Hilton, or you see a Hilton Air, guess what? John Marriott and Hilton, those people have, they've created a legacy for their families. They've created a legacy. So, I spoke at my family reunion this past weekend, and that was one of the things that I talked about was, like, create a legacy for your family. What are you doing? What are you doing that people will remember your family name? What are you doing that they will remember your name? Not the bad stuff. Find some good stuff. And let me tell you, we've all had crap happen in our lives, and we can pull ourselves up from anything, because everything that happens in life is an experience to teach us for the next level where we're going. So don't dwell in those bad places. Don't dwell on your mistakes. Don't dwell in sadness. Don't dwell in depression. Don't dwell in what coulda, woulda, and shoulda. How about you focus on what I can, what I will, and what I shall? And, if people are not in our lives right now, celebrate the time that you've had with them. Thank God for the purpose because even people that are out of your life, they may have been bad for you. Thank God for them, because they were there to teach you something. So, stop being sad. I mean, I would love to see, stuff come through the timeline that talks about I am excited, about this, that, and the other. I am just joyful about this and not about sad stuff. Because even with what's going on in our world and what's going on in our country, yes, do I get sad and upset, about school shootings? Yes, do I get sad and upset about, poverty? Yes, do I get sad and upset about, young men killing young men in gangs and teen pregnancies? Absolutely. But what am I doing to change that picture? What am I doing to change that picture? If you're upset about our political climate, then first of all, vote. Second of all, find a way to get on committees. Third, get to your legislature, write your senators, write your congressmen. They're not reading your Facebook posts. Newsflash. Tom Tillis and all them North Carolina senators, they're not on my timeline reading my stuff. They'll read a letter. They'll read a change.org that you put through. They have to listen if you go to the legislature. Like, there are ways to get people to listen. Yeah, I don't take the news. So it's so depressing. And I've had to unfollow people or even unfriend them on my page because people just want to talk about the bad stuff. They just want to talk about the bad stuff. And I'm like, but what are you doing? And how are we always upset about racism? I'm like, okay, black people, I'm going to say something. How are we always upset about things that we deem as being racist towards us, but we never look at how we treat other people? I don't get that. I just don't understand that, because the only thing I could do is be a reflection of what Christ has required me to be. And I have to show kindness and care to other people if I expect them to show it back to me. Will it come back from the same person? Typically not. But guess what? You put that good positive energy out there, it will come back to you. How we talk about the bad stuff is important. I think having a conversation about the bad stuff is important, but there has to be some action with that. You just can't come on and talk about, well, number 45 is this, and look at them, they're taking away these programs, and look at this, they signed away that, and they signed away this, and they signed away that. How about this? I see every day how people purposely abuse and attempt to beat the system because they know that they can get it. And then the people that really need it are the ones that suffer with something being taken away. We ain't talking to them. Tell them to stop abusing the system. And there are people that are abusing the system. And I'm not talking about people that need, help. I'm just talking about, well, I didn't know what I needed to explain, but you're right, Shayna. We need to figure out how do we do this? How do we have this conversation? And how you have the conversation or how you jump into action is that you figure out how you can cause change or affect change in the area that you've been assigned or what you've been called to do. We all have social media pages. We all have a way to reach people beyond, the extent of our arms. Have the conversations there. Rally folks together and say, hey, you know what? I was so proud of the North Carolina teachers for finally coming together to do something. Now, it's 100,000 years too late because you're 100,000 years behind the 8 ball. But I found out a couple of weeks ago from someone who's very connected to our North Carolina legislature, the teachers don't get what they want or what they need or what they are worth is because they don't vote. They don't vote. I was like, wow, you work for the very state and the people who make the decision on how you get paid, but you ain't voting. But you want to B&M about just your salary and your pay. To me, it's nonsensical. That's why I don't listen to people that complain. That's why you don't ever see me on my page complaining about certain things, because there's just some stuff you will most likely not see me out marching after something happens. You just won't. Because the change starts in my community. The change starts with rallying folks together in closed doors and having sessions and talking about stuff. Getting out there marching, because let me tell you, and folks may not like this, marching was very effective in the 60s. Very effective because, you know, they never expected people to be able to come together like that and come under one voice. Well, nobody's threatened by marches anymore. You know how they're threatened? They're threatened when you stop shopping, when you stop giving them your money. They're threatened when you turn off reality TV and start reading books that will change your future. They're threatened when you start, you know, getting young males to honor themselves and love women and get out there and be respectable. Those are the things that are fearful. Getting out there marching doesn't scare anybody. Doesn't scare anybody. And you got to hit them in the pocket. You've got to hit them in the pocket. So I didn't mean to really get off my whole sadness thing, but like, I'm still tied into that because what are you going to do to lift yourself out of the state that you don't like? No one's going to come along and rescue you. They're not. They're not going to come and rescue you. You have to have it within you. You have to have these inner conversations with yourself and say, hey, you know what? I want to do better, so I will do better. I want things to change, so I will effect change. You know, I want to see, you know, young girls respect themselves. So I'm going to go out and start talking to them. Yeah, you hit them in the pocket, Nissa, it will absolutely, absolutely change things. So, you know, my whole thing is, you know, this all started with me seeing a memory post. Yeah, you got to take personal responsibility. Absolutely. And this whole live started with me just reflecting on a memory, you know, with me last year, this time being at the hospital with my mom. And I got sad, but I couldn't stay there. And we can't stay in those places. We can't stay in those places. Nobody's threatened by us being mad anymore. Nobody's threatened by us sharing videos about stuff. Nobody's threatened by us doing memes. You know, there's a certain part of society that expects a certain group of society to be inactive. To be inactive. I would give it solutions on how to get the sadness out. Thank you. You know, that's what you've got to do. And so, you know, it's okay to reflect and remember, you know, a person that has passed on. It's okay to be upset that someone that a loved one that's not in your life right now, that you would love for those chains of distance to be broken, an offense to be broken. It's okay, but don't dwell in that place. You have got to find a way to move on with life, because if you start moving on and you start asking God to correct and change you, you'll be going on and so focused on getting you fixed that on the other side of the road, that other person's getting fixed. And by the time you get ready to cross, you're going to meet and things are going to work out. And, you know, I'm just trusting that, you know, Merlin, things does work out for you. And I'm hoping that there was something in this live that I said that gives you the courage to continue to press through. And to even look inward and reflect on, you know, on you and stop, you know, focusing on the other person or the situation. And then if there's some unforgiveness in any situation, release that. Release that, because we know forgiveness is not for us, it's for the other person. And, you know, the main people in our lives that can drain and suck the life out of us are our families, because they expect us to take their crap. And I've made it clear with my family, I don't have to take your crap. From my husband on down to the youngest niece or nephew. Like, I don't have to take your crap. So, you know, you either going to respect my boundaries or we just going to have to part ways. Now, let me clarify. Ain't nothing going on with me and my husband, because people be thinking you say stuff on Facebook, there's something going on. It's not, but I'm just saying, you got to set those boundaries, because family are the main ones that will have you stroking out, stressed out, all depressed, pissed off, mad at the world, not doing anything, because they expect you to take their crap, and you don't have to. That you don't have to. You don't have to take that. So you just say, hey, look, I ain't got to do all that. And if you ain't respecting my boundaries, then it's peace. It's peace. And so, you know, it's so funny, because last year this time, close to this time, my son had posted something on Facebook, and I sent a loving correction in the comment. Well, he sends me a message or a text saying, you know, he didn't appreciate that. And he had said some other comments. I mean, he wasn't totally disrespectful, But he was out of, and I was like, okay. So then I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, hey, look, this is that and the other. There's just some stuff you shouldn't say. And, I don't care if it is funny or if it's a song. You just don't want to put stuff like that on Facebook. And he didn't like what I had to say. He hung up on me. I was like, what in the ham sandwich just happened? And I was upset, y'all. I was real pissed off. I was going down the road and I was crying and I was talking to my husband. I was like, this little bleepity bleepity bleep hung up on me. Okay. He will find Jesus again before he gets me on the phone. I blocked him. I unfriended him. I ain't want to hear nothing from him. And on Mother's Day, because it happened right after his birthday. So for almost 3 or 4 weeks, didn't talk to them. And guess what, Merlin? That was a sign of somebody pretty much being dead to you, but they were alive. Because I had come to the resolve in my mind that if I didn't speak to him again, I was okay with that because you're not going to disrespect me. And on Mother's Day, it was actually a couple of days after Mother's Day, his girlfriend had asked me, because she asked me for my address, and she asked me had I been to my P.O. box. And I was like, well, I hadn't, because I don't go every day. Now, unless I'm expecting a check, I'll be there every day. And so I said, oh, okay. So she and her daughter sent me a Mother's Day card. So I go to my post office box and I open it and all kinds of letters start falling out. I was like, oh, crap. I got somebody else's mail. I pull it out of my mailbox. They're all addressed to me. Guess who they're from? They're from my son. He was 29 at the time. He had just had his 29th birthday. He sent me 29 individual Hallmark Mother's Day cards. All 29 of them had a different note in them, and all 29 had a stamp on it. He didn't put 29 in one big envelope. He put 20. He mailed 29, and I looked at the back of the card to see how much they cost. Them cards range between $3 and $6. He sent 29 for every year of his birth. And when I called him to thank him for that, he acknowledged that he was disrespectful. He acknowledged that that will never happen again. Guess what? You teach people how to treat you. And I had to remind him, I ain't the one. Now, we could disagree with you being a young adult. We could disagree, but you won't disrespect me. You just won't. And so, a lot of times it's our family that's jacking us up. You got to be free within your own self to say, you know what? I'm okay with them in my life and I'll be okay with them out of my life. But at the end of the day, I ain't about to be sick and frustrated and have headaches and chest pains because I'm trying to keep peace just because they family. Man, somebody better get out of my face with that foolishness. We teach people how to treat us. I'm like, and I say that to people all the time and they look at me with this deer in the headlights. I'm like, so if you're in a relationship and somebody can talk to you any kind of way and you get upset and then they come back and make up and then they do it again, they come back and you done taught them that they could talk to you any kind of way and you're going to accept them back. So I ain't mean to go this long because I don't like watching long videos myself, but I just felt this necessary. Like, man, stop the madness and stop the sadness. Pull yourself up, pull yourself together, live your life as you have been called to live it. And not only change your life, but when you get your life together, you can't even begin to imagine how many lives that you will change. So thank you so much for taking time to watch this video. I will make it public just in case somebody wants to share it. But hey, enjoy your weekend and keep in mind, you teach people how to treat you. And guess what? You teach yourself how to treat yourself. You're welcome, Merlin. Thank you so much, Anissa. I'm glad that you got something out of it, Merlin. I'm so grateful for that because I almost didn't come on and do this. I was like, man, ain't nobody trying to hear all that foolishness. But hey, you know what? I'm gonna say what I got to say and keep it moving. Keep it moving. So if you just joining, go back and definitely watch this from the beginning, because child, this was good for me. It was good for me. But y'all take care, and there may be somebody that that needs to hear this, so you can share it on their timeline or share it in Messenger. But I'm absolutely going to post this so you can make it public because God don't want us to be sad. God don't even want us to be sad. If God wanted us to be sad, he would never send the sunshine out. Hey, Tasha. He would never send the sunshine out. So thank y'all for watching. I really, really appreciate it. So everybody have a great evening. Have a great weekend. And guess what? I just want you to live your best life.